The world explodes around me. I can't think, can't focus. All I remember is the sound, metal shrieking, alarms blaring, flames roaring, more than I can comprehend. The heat is suffocating, wrapping around my body like a serpent, squeezing tighter with each breath. My skin prickles, the acrid smoke bites at my lungs, and suddenly I can't see. Everything is chaos, a swirling nightmare of noise and fire. Instinct takes over. I panic, but it's devoid of clarity. Brace, fire, pain. I feel the tremors beneath my feet, the ground shaking, heaving. What do I do? Where do I go? I stumble forward, the world undulating, everything jarring. All of it so loud, so consuming. The scent of burning metal and oil fills my nostrils, and I'm drowning in the cacophony. Screams, the sound of flesh meeting flame, frantic footsteps, chaos. Bam! Something collides, a deafening crash, a wall of sound that makes my heart pound harder. Hurry! I don't know where to run. My thoughts splinter like the brittle wreckage around me. Each heartbeat feels like a drum signaling an ominous countdown. I can taste the fear, bitter and metallic, rising up my throat. Run, run, run. Then, the void. Silence. It swallows me whole, a suffocating, all-encompassing darkness. The chaos fades into an unsettling calm, a stark contrast to the inferno mere moments ago. I am suspended in nothing, no more sound, no more pain. Was there a moment of pain? I can't remember. As I float, the memory of heat recedes, leaving behind only the echoes of screams faint as ghosts. I don't know where I am. Have I left my body? I don't feel the weight of the world anymore, just emptiness. There is no light, no sensation, only a profound solitude that seems to stretch on endlessly. I yearn for something, someone, yet I can't find what it is. My thoughts flicker like dying embers, weak and fleeting. All I have left are fragments of fear, the echoes of my last moments, intertwining with the silence that feels like a shroud wrapping around me. I remember the taste of my morning coffee, the glint of sunlight on the rig, the sound of laughter bouncing off steel. But now, those moments slip through my fingers like grains of sand. They vanish into the abyss, leaving me listening to the whispers of what once was. The dread of finality weighs down on me, mingling with the darkness that surrounds my floating consciousness. And then, a distant thought, something gnawing at the edges of my mind. Did I leave anyone behind? I grasp at shadows, searching for connections that seem forever out of reach. Sinking deeper into this nothingness, I realize I am more than just a fleeting sensation. But what am I? In this expansive void where I thought I knew my place, all I feel is the absence of the world, and a question echoes in that creeping silence. Did I truly exist? And the finality of it all dims with that thought, breathing life into the stillness, drawing me back into the embrace of the void. In the stillness, amidst the shadows, a flicker of recognition emerges. I remember my name, Jake. I am Jake, a worker on that rig, a man with dreams, responsibilities, and an ever-aching desire to provide for my family. As the memories brush against my consciousness, they are tinged with warmth, nostalgia, and an aching reminder of what once was. The sound of my daughter's laughter floats through my mind like sunlight piercing through clouds, reminding me of a time when life was simple, filled with love. I worked long hours, my hands often calloused and worn, eager to make ends meet. I was there for her, juggling every late shift, every missed dinner, filled with the hope of a better tomorrow. I remember how she looked up at me, her wide, trusting eyes filled with innocence. "Come home safe, Daddy," she had said, her small hand gripping my fingers tightly. It felt like a promise, a solemn vow I intended to keep. But now, what have I done?
My heart aches, a dull throb that reverberates through the void. I see flashes of sunlight streaming through our kitchen window, the weight of the day dissipating as I walk through the door. I was just a father, exhausted yet fulfilled, who loved his little girl more than words could ever convey. I can almost feel her tiny arms wrap around me. I can still hear the whispers of bedtime stories and dreams of far-off places. My pulse quickens as I cling to those memories like lifelines. But even familiarity cannot drown out the rising tide of guilt within me. I floated in this liminal space between past and present, caught in the web of regret.
The chaos of my final moments was a distant thunder now, muffled, swallowed whole by the vast expanse of darkness. Yet my thoughts spiral back to her, my daughter, a promise left unfulfilled. I feel the weight of an invisible anchor tethering me to the very essence of fatherhood. An old, worn-out helmet rests in the recesses of my memory, a gift from a mentor who was once just a stranger on this rugged metal island. During my first days on the rig, he smiled at me, that knowing look that whispered, "You'll be fine, kid." That helmet, painted a bright orange, a symbol of safety stitched with care, now signifies bonds forged in sweat and toil. "Jake," he said, passing it to me as if it contained a piece of his spirit, "this will protect you. Never forget that safety comes first." I wore that helmet more than just as a piece of gear. It became part of my identity, a shield against danger, an emblem of that promise to come home safe to my family. As I drift deeper within this nebulous realm, I question the impact of my existence. Each fragment of memory flares with clarity and then dissipates, like smoke caught on a breeze. The day before. I hold on to that day, ordinary yet profound, a series of insignificant moments that amassed into the rhythm of life. I recall the weathered kitchen table, my daughter's tiny drawing of a sunset, crayons still scattered around, her vivid imagination spilling onto the paper. Beneath the spattering of paint, I see hope and love, a fragile, radiant bond that now aches with distance. My heart aches not just for the life I left behind, but the possibility of the laughter stolen by disaster. What will she think if she never knows what truly happened or the extent of my love? I feel the pull of time, that intangible river, ever moving forward while I remain suspended in this eerie calm. Did I take her for granted, believing I had more time? Was there a moment when I could have chosen differently? A choice to linger longer, to play that extra game of catch, to hear her giggles one more time. I had it all within reach, and now it's all slipping away. I search for clarity, something tangible to hold on to, a thread within this endless ocean of memory. Yet with each thought, the shadows loom larger. I am Jake, a father lost to fate, and this immense void only amplifies my yearning, a longing for warmth, for connection, for the vibrant heartbeat of life I once knew. But now I float here, and I am left alone with the gentle torments of memory. Time drips like water through clenched fingers, and all I can do is hope that by speaking, I can be remembered. As the ache settles deep within my soul, I realize, perhaps my story is still intertwined with theirs, waiting for the moment when they bring my severed threads back to life. I cling to that hope, for it feels like my final possession, the last piece of the puzzle that defines me. Jake, loving father, devoted worker, drifting through the vast expanse, striving to hold on to echoes of a life left behind. The day before the explosion was painted in hues of mundanity and routine, a canvas where strokes of meaning were hidden in every corner, waiting to be recognized. I recall the soft light filtering through the kitchen window, casting familiar patterns on the table. The smell of coffee mingled with the crispness of morning air, filling my senses with warmth. I could hear my daughter's laughter dancing in the background, a melody that filled our modest home with life. "Daddy, look!" she squealed, her voice pealing like a silver bell. I turned to find her standing proudly with her little hands outstretched, presenting a piece of art bearing her thoughts, a mix of colors spilling wildly on the canvas. I crouched to meet her gaze, my heart swelling with pride.
"A sunset!" I exclaimed, and she nodded vigorously, delighted by my encouragement. In that moment, the world slowed down, and nothing else mattered. I felt the weight of my job slipping away. The burdens of oil rigs and machinery faded into background noise. I was just a father, enthralled by his daughter's imagination, caught in the tranquility of family. After breakfast, I grabbed my worn-out jacket, the fabric still tinged with the scent of summer and sun. In the mirror, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. Tired eyes, a rough exterior carved by labor, but inside, a heart full of love and aspirations. I promised her another game of catch later, a ritual of connection grounding us amidst the chaos of life.
The ride to the rig that day was all too familiar. The truck rattled along the dirt road, the jarring movements matching the rhythm of my thoughts. Mundane yet meaningful, an unremarkable day that thrummed with unspoken potential. I exchanged polite nods with coworkers, my brothers in arms, as we gathered for the morning briefing. Their faces bore the same lines of fatigue as mine, but beneath it we shared a bond, forged in the fire of countless shifts beneath the unforgiving sun. "Everything checked out," Bill, the foreman, said, his voice steady, yet I sensed the tension beneath his words. I noticed a few looks exchanged among the crew, subtle, quick glances that held unasked questions. Equipment malfunction warnings had been raised, a flickering light, an ominous sign ignored, brushed aside like dust on a shelf. "But we'll manage," he added, with the sort of bravado that tested the waters of hesitation. "Right," I murmured, feeling a knot form in my stomach. I wanted to voice my doubts, to question, but the ritual of routine silenced my fears. It was just one more day, I convinced myself. Just one more day at the rig, and then I'd return to my family. As the sun climbed higher, work washed over me, a rhythmic flow of hammering metal, the cacophony of machinery cranking, workers moving in coordinated chaos. I surrendered to the rhythm, forgetting the uneasy flutter in my gut as we moved, focused on our tasks. The day carried on like any other, until I stepped onto the main deck, where vast blue stretched before us, sun glittering off the waves, giving a deceptive sanctuary to the grinding reality of our work. But I felt the warning whispers creeping in. I glanced at the equipment, the edges frayed, threads unraveling. A sense of unease settled like a fog, thick and heavy, floating through our shared laughter and banter. When I tucked a piece of my daughter's art into my pocket, it brought me solace, an anchor in a sea of uncertainty. "Hey Jake, can you help me with this?" a colleague called, snapping me back to the moment. It was just another day, but in hindsight, I see the cracks forming. With every laugh shared, every promise made in the swirl of everyday life, a shadow loomed, unseen but tangible. The clock moved forward, every tick resonating with the weight of time we often took for granted. I watched the horizon, where earth met sky, pondering the future as laughter intertwined with the sound of metal and machines. Yet somehow, the laughter felt muffled in a way I couldn't place. Would I come home safe? The thought lingered, unfamiliar, unused, yet now it feels so vital, so heavy. I replay the day, the echoes of laughter still ringing, the half-finished conversations left to drift in the ether. As warnings pulsed like an unsteady heartbeat, unnoticed amidst the mundane. I kept plowing forward, thinking of my daughter, that game of catch I promised, all too unaware that it would soon become a memory, an expression captured in time. All the moments, for all their mundane significance, were carved from a consequence I brushed aside, believing I had more time. Before the explosion, I had thought every moment was a gift. Only now, as I float amid the currents of time, do I truly understand the fragility of those moments, how they can slip away like grains of sand, leaving only the aching realization of what might have been. Days began to blur into one another, an amalgamation of work and routine, each moment alive yet so fleeting. But through it all, my daughter's little drawing remained a token of hope nestled deep in my pocket, a colorful promise that I carried with me, held close to my heart.
It was a small piece of her world, effortlessly connecting us against the backdrop of my labor. But that day, everything shifted into disarray as the sun slanted lower in the sky, the golden rays spilling into the crevices of my memory. As I moved through the rig's skeleton, a giant bewitching structure tempered by rust and salt, I came across an object that would tether the fragments of my story together in such cruel irony. In the creaking shadows of the main warehouse, I stumbled upon a rusted toolbox, half buried beneath discarded scraps and debris. Perhaps someone had forgotten it, a relic of past labor left haphazardly behind. I knelt, driven by intuition, and pried it open, the hinges protesting like a long-ignored memory. Inside lay an assortment of tools and a crumpled piece of paper stubbornly clinging to the edges of wear. Curiosity gnawed at me. I reached in to retrieve it, the texture rough against my fingertips, and smoothed it open. It felt like unearthing a part of myself.
Dust particles dancing in the rays of fading light. My hands trembled slightly. The note was hastily scribbled, the ink faded but still legible, whispering secrets of a world beyond my own. "Remember, every moment counts," it read. A quote, perhaps, not profound, but somehow weighty. Who had written this? The words dripped with an urgency I could feel deep in my bones. I stared into the dimness of the toolbox, feeling the weight of the note pressing against my chest. Those words resonated with uncanny familiarity. I swallowed hard, contemplating their looming importance. In this chaotic life, surrounded by machinery and reality besieged by catastrophe, I often lost sight of what truly mattered. Every moment counts. How foolish I had been to assume there would always be a tomorrow, to presume my laughter and love would be waiting for me, unscathed by fate. Around me, the world thundered on with its usual chaos. I cast a glance at my crew, my friends lost in sweat and toil. Beneath their laughter, I sensed the same shadows creeping in, fragments of doubt and worry glimmering like dull coins. I hesitated, then folded the note carefully and tucked it alongside my daughter's art. Two pieces of my heart intertwined, bound by a shared sense of urgency, of inevitability. "Jake, you all right?" Bill's voice cut through the haze, pulling me back to the present. I offered a half-hearted nod, my thoughts still hovering uncertainly around the cryptic message. The sun dipped lower, bathing everything in a resplendent orange glow, and I felt a pang in my heart. The shadows lengthened around us, and I imagined my daughter's face, illuminated by evening light, waiting for me with open arms, laughter bubbling just beneath the surface. The promise of a game of catch still swirled like a soft breeze, urging me to return. We continued our tasks, tightening bolts, checking equipment, but something shifted within me. As the shifts melded into each other, I paid attention to the world around me more acutely. The sound of the wind caressing the waves, the whir of engines yearning to keep on, relentless in their toil. A strange sense of beauty enveloped me, tethering me to the moment. With the toolbox still heavy in my hands, I wondered if forgotten objects like this bore their own stories, remnants of lives past, lessons waiting to be unraveled. Each tool was imbued with memories of hard-working hands, laughter, frustration, moments spent forging connections with others. It was then that I caught sight of the frayed edges on the machinery, rough-hewn pieces ready to snap. An awareness washed over me, a rush of foreboding spreading through my veins like wildfire. Did others feel it too? The tremors beneath us, as if the ground itself sensed impending catastrophe. Yet there was this weighty note, a reminder resting with my daughter's colorful creation, the medley of caution, love, and responsibility echoing from the depths of it. I felt they had identified the very core of my existence. As the day stretched towards evening, the shadows grew darker, and apprehension clouded my thoughts. I suddenly yearned for home, the simple warmth of giggles and storytelling filling our small space. The thought anchored me, guiding my focus back to her and our future.
I clenched my fists tighter around the treasures in my pocket, determined not to let chaos steal them from me, my essence entwined with those pieces, guarding them fiercely against the approaching storm. A bell tolled, signaling the end of the shift, yet my heart raced with uncertainty. Unease hovered like a storm cloud, unshakable. The laughter and chatter of my colleagues mingled with the rise of anxiety. I merely wanted to shake off the weight of apprehension. I wanted to step away from the cage of metal and machinery and indulge in the comforts of home. But as we gathered our gear, I couldn't shake the feeling that all was not well, that the promise I'd made to return to my child was twisted in fate's grasp. Just as I turned to leave, the familiar machinery let out a deafening groan, an ominous cry, snapping my attention back to the moment at hand. Was this what the note had warned? Each moment counts? Each awakening a new opportunity to listen, to heed the smallest whispers urging me to choose differently. Time slipped away like grains of sand in an hourglass, creeping towards the inevitable. I could sense the shadows deepen, the unease settle thickly in the air around me. Adrenaline surged through my veins, a primal instinct urging me to return to my daughter, to protect that which was most precious. And in that very heartbeat, knowing something profound shifted within me, I rushed forward, the warmth of my pocket urging me ever onward, seeking not just a way out,
but a pathway back to love, laughter, and the fleeting moments that would otherwise be lost forever. In their embrace was the hope I clung to, a spark attempting to ignite the path before me, a signal unwavering against the storm looming close. Time unraveled in a way I had never anticipated. A humbled urgency surged through me as I raced toward the deck's edge, where the sun was dipping low on the horizon, spilling its golden hues across the ocean's surface, and I knew I had to reach my daughter. She needed me. But before I could take a single step toward safety, the world began to tremble beneath my feet. A shriek cut through the air, a cacophony that conjured chaos. My heart thundered with an instinctual terror, and the ground vibrated violently as if nature itself sensed the dark cloud rising. My feet ran on autopilot, my mind fixated only on the promise I had made to her, to come home safe. "We need to evacuate," Bill's voice shattered the moment, his words echoing amid the panic as colleagues scrambled toward the exits. There was a sudden wave of motion, bodies and machinery shifting like waves crashing against the rocks. I grasped the amulet of my daughter's drawing and the note in my pocket tighter, a talisman of hope in this storm of despair. Deep down, I felt the urgency pounding in my chest. It echoed like a doomsday bell ringing in the silence of my mind. Then I heard the deafening roar. The ground quaked beneath me. Metal screeched as it found its breaking point. Bolts loosened, and the rig itself howled in agony. I felt it in my soul, a warning, an omen screaming through the air. An explosion thundered behind me with a force so immense that it blurred reality. I was thrust into the air, weightless before falling into a whirlwind of confusion and terror. The world erupted in a blaze of blinding light and throbbing heat, engulfing everything in ear-splitting chaos. It was surreal, the details shimmering like a distorted dream, the sound of metal twisting, shouts drowning in panic, the acrid scent of smoke and burning oil invading my senses. The rig collapsed in on itself. The very structure meant to protect us now turned hellish. I was flung across the narrow deck as if I were a mere plaything of fate. I landed hard against the cold metal floor, gasping, the air knocked from my lungs as pain blossomed through my body like a wildfire. The moment stretched, each second unfurling like a drawn breath, caught in the annihilation of everything I knew. I struggled to regain myself, pushing against the jagged debris around me, searching for familiar faces amidst the turmoil. Rage twisted in my chest, not against the constriction of metal, but against the threat that had entrapped my future. Then I saw them, my colleagues, caught in their fight against the inferno and smoke, scrambling toward the distant exit.
but the air sought to suffocate us, each breath stinging my lungs, the urgency thickening around me. I grasped at shards of memory, not for survival, but for determination. Each friend I had shared laughter and toil with, now fighting for their life. "Get out!" I screamed, my voice raw, a desperate rally to those who once shared smiles and stories under the sunlight. It was chaos. I could feel it, hear it, taste it, an orchestra conducted by fear. I crawled forward, my body protesting against the sharp edges of ruin and time, the relentless ticking of fate topped with misery pushing against my heart like a vice. I needed to do something, to pull myself from my current hell, to tether myself back to my child, to her laughter, her innocence, her essence. But as I clawed my way through the tumult, it felt as though the world clawed back, twisting my fate, trying to sever the veins that linked me to life. Burning flames licked at my heels, the smoke wrapping around me like a noose. My heart raged with the primal instinct to survive, but the pit of despair tightening, threatening to crush me under its weight. But that note, those words, "Every moment counts," resonated in my mind. I had to move. I refused to let panic govern my actions. I would find a way, even if it meant dragging myself through the darkness, through the agony aching in my bones. With every ounce of strength, I ignited a flicker of promise within, the promise of return and safety wrapped tightly around the truth of my love. Rather than surrendering to the catastrophe, I fought against the tide, inching through the haze and chaos. I heard the calls of others, felt their presence, a cacophony that urged me forward even as the molten fear gripped my heart. In the midst of the tumult, I glimpsed a fragile path through the wreckage, and in that moment, clarity pierced through the storm of confusion. I surged forward, desperate, fueled by the thought of my daughter, envisioning her small frame. Laughter ripped free from a story waiting to be told. I pushed harder, fueled by a singular need to return to her. With the ragged remnants of momentum, I clawed through the debris, dodging flames, dancing like spirits in a wild boogie. The taste of ash thick on my tongue, but determination surged. I fought against the crushing will of fate, thrusting myself forward, my heart racing like an engine, determined not to let the darkness swallow me whole. I could hear sirens wailing far away, the chorus of life persisting outside this minefield of anguish. Yet it felt too far from me. But I wouldn't let go. I wouldn't leave without a fight. I pushed my body through the flames, licking at my heels, unwilling to concede to the suffocating darkness threatening to engulf me. Pain shot through me, but I couldn't slow down. The thought of the smile on my daughter's face fueled the fire within. In that last stretch, I could see the exit, the piercing glow of daylight teasing from the cracks, the whispers of freedom wrapping around me. I stumbled through the wreckage, each step heavy yet resolute. Finally, I burst into the open air, the stark contrast a bitter embrace of wind and light. The cries of my coworkers echoed behind me as I collapsed outside, breathless, my heart pounding like a drum. It wasn't over yet. I wasn't finished. I needed to find my way back to her, where laughter lived. I needed to hold on to the promise of our moments. I was determined to see her again. In the distance, the sirens surged, a clear reminder that hope echoed through this catastrophe, that I could break through the storm's chains. And as the smoke began to clear, I knew I had fought for every moment, and I emerged into the light, intent on returning to the laughter waiting just beyond the shadows. The air outside felt different, charged with a frenzied energy that sent shivers down my spine. Sirens blared, piercing through the haze of confusion, startling me into a reality I hadn't fully embraced yet. I lay on the ground, the weight of my exhaustion threatening to swallow me whole, but the fire of hope flickered within. I had fought to escape the chaos. The shadows didn't hold me anymore. "Jake!" A familiar voice cut through the storm, and I turned, forcing my heavy muscles to respond. Mike pushed toward me, worry etched across his face. "Are you all right?" "I think so," I gasped, trying to rise, but finding my legs trembling beneath me. But my mind raced. My daughter, my love, where was she? I couldn't let fear tighten its grip on me again. "Who are you looking for?" Mike asked, concern bleeding through his urgency. "My daughter," I stammered, desperation clawing at my throat. "She's at home. I need to get to her." "Listen," he urged, gripping my shoulder. "We need to evacuate before it's too late. The explosion has made things unstable." My breath quickened as I felt panic surge. I couldn't leave her. She had to be waiting for me. But what if she didn't know? What if she was scared, alone? Yet, the words of the note echoed in my mind. Every moment counts. I realized I had survived. I had to embrace the responsibility that came with that. I couldn't afford to wallow in despair when I had the chance to see her again. "Okay," I nodded, taking a shaky breath. "Let's go." As we pushed through the wreckage, the remnants of laughter now overshadowed by despair, I felt urgency pound in my chest. I scanned the chaos around me, searching for familiar faces among the frantic workers and emergency responders caught in this swirling storm of despair. Mike and I navigated through the crowd, the scent of smoke clinging to the air. I could see stretchers being readied for those who were still trapped. A knot tightened in my stomach. Where were my friends? They needed me as I needed them. Suddenly, a voice rang out amidst the chaos, familiar yet distant. "Jake!" My heart surged at the sound, trembling with anticipation. "Over here!" I turned fervently, urgency propelling me forward, surging through the throngs of desperate souls. And there she stood, my daughter, her eyes wide and fearful, yet shimmering with warmth. "Daddy!" she cried, running toward me, momentum exploding within me as we met in an embrace. "Sweetheart!" I gasped.
Falling to my knees to cradle her tight, relief enveloped me like a shield as I pressed my face into her hair, inhaling the sweet scent of innocence. "I thought I lost you. I was so scared," she sobbed, her small body trembling against me. "I'm here, my love," I murmured, the emotions crashing over me like waves. I held her close, heart pounding with the bittersweet cocktail of relief and guilt. I had fought to return to her. "I'm so sorry for everything." The chaos around us faded as we held each other, the world slipping away. I whispered promises of safety and love, the firm grip of reality settling between us. We had survived the storm, but could we truly find solace after such turmoil? But soon, the reality of the situation pressed back in, shadows dancing around us as people screamed and emergency responders rushed to help. Still clutching my daughter, I could feel the remnants of fear bubbling beneath the surface. The nightmare lingered behind us, the flames still casting a dim reflection on our resolve. "Jake, we need to go," Mike shouted, his urgency breaking through the moment. "We have to get somewhere safe." Reluctantly, I loosened my grip on my daughter, gazing into her eyes, the warmth solidifying the tether between us even in the storm. "Can you stay close?" I asked softly, my own fear radiating through the words. "Always, Daddy," she whispered, determination etching her small face. Together, we made our way through the gathering crowd toward the emergency vehicles. Each step felt like a fragile promise, the weight of survival pushing against us, as I channeled everything I had into holding on to her tightly. As we reached the staging area, a stark contrast to the chaos we had just escaped, I saw help arrive in droves. Medics worked with compassion and urgency, offering solace to those who hadn't made it out. It struck me, the resilience of the human spirit. How, in times of deepest darkness, we cling to hope and life, fighting back against despair. With my daughter nestled at my side, I tried to steady my breath, focusing on the present while still hanging on to what lay ahead. We had emerged from the wreckage, but the battle against the past would take time, healing that needed to begin anew. In that instant, I caught a glimpse of the memories we had shared, the laughter, the warmth, the love that could rebuild what had been lost.
filling each hollow space left by the chaos. We would find our way, I vowed, ready to reclaim the laughter that had once defined us. As I held her close, I whispered against the wind, "We survived, sweetheart. We'll rebuild and create anew." In that fragile bond, I felt a resurgence of determination, a flicker of light breaking through the storm's shadows, illuminating the path forward. With every heartbeat, I promised to cherish each moment, to seize life as if it were a tapestry woven from the threads of love and laughter. We could carry on, I realized, together. It was time to embrace the future with open hearts, for there was work to be done in reclaiming our story, a revival born from the ashes of despair. And as I held my daughter tighter, I knew we were ready to face whatever lay ahead, together. As the chaos around us faded into the background, I felt an unexpected serenity take hold, warmed by my daughter's small hand clasped tightly in mine. We stood at the edge of the staging area, a stark contrast to the turmoil we had just escaped. Medics worked by with purpose, their faces a mixture of determination and compassion, as they tended to those who had been hurt. The scene was both heartbreaking and beautiful, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, illuminating our shared fight against despair. With my daughter nestled at my side, I tried to steady my breath, focusing on the present while still hanging on to what lay ahead. We had emerged from the wreckage, but the battle against the past would take time, healing that needed to begin anew. In that instant, I caught a glimpse of the memories we had shared, the laughter, the warmth, the love that could rebuild what had been lost, filling each hollow space left by the chaos. We would find our way, I vowed, ready to reclaim the laughter that had once defined us. As I held her close, I whispered against the wind, "We survived, sweetheart. We'll rebuild and create anew." In that fragile bond, I felt a resurgence of determination, a flicker of light breaking through the storm's shadows, illuminating the path forward. With every heartbeat, I promised to cherish each moment, to seize life as if it were a tapestry woven from the threads of love and laughter. We could carry on, I realized, together. It was time to embrace the future with open hearts, for there was work to be done in reclaiming our story, a revival born from the ashes of despair. And as I held my daughter tighter, I knew we were ready to face whatever lay ahead, together. As the chaos around us faded into the background, I felt an unexpected serenity take hold, warmed by my daughter's small hand clasped tightly in mine. We stood at the edge of the staging area, a stark contrast to the turmoil we had just escaped. Medics rushed by with purpose, their faces a mixture of determination and compassion as they tended to those who had been hurt. The scene was both heartbreaking and beautiful, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, illuminating our shared fight against despair. "Daddy, will I see my friends again?" my daughter asked, her voice a soft murmur beneath the bustle. "Of course," I replied, the promise laced with more certainty than I felt. "We'll make sure of it." A part of me itched with worry, but I couldn't let it seep into our moment. Instead, I focused on her radiant face, determined to anchor my doubts in hope. Together, we stepped closer to the aides distributing bottled water and blankets. My daughter tugged at my sleeve, her heart already open to helping. "Can we lend a hand?" I nodded, pride swelling in my chest. We approached the volunteers, and I watched as she eagerly passed out blankets, her laughter ringing like bell chimes in the air, soothing frayed nerves. "Thank you," someone called in gratitude, and I felt warmth spread through the gathered crowd, a light illuminating the darkness we had just witnessed. Watching her,
I realized how powerful her innocence was. It shone through the wreckage, building bridges where moments felt lost. With each gesture, she reminded those around us that even small acts of kindness could foster healing, stitching threads of humanity taut against the fabric of grief. "Look, Daddy," She pointed to a little girl sitting alone, clutching her knees. The sadness on her face mirrored the weight of the world, something I saw so often in my own daughter's eyes. "Can we give her a blanket?" my daughter asked, sensing the need, the tug of empathy blossoming within her. My heart fluttered at the way she drew from her own joy to offer solace. We moved over, and she knelt beside the girl, presenting her with the blanket like an offering. "Here, you can have this," she said, her smile gentle and encouraging. The girl's face broke into a shy grin as she wrapped the fabric around her. "Thank you." My daughter beamed. In that small encounter, hope triumphed. Life momentarily pushed aside the shadows looming nearby. There was meaning in these little interactions. They served as reminders that the world could be filled with moments of love, even in the darkest times. As we returned to the busy hub of medics and volunteers, I felt a sense of unity enveloping us, a collective will to support one another, to rise up from the ashes. Spirited flashes of laughter broke through the somber atmosphere, a testament to resilience, to the strength we drew from one another. "Daddy, look!" she exclaimed, pointing to a small group of children playing nearby, using sticks to draw in the dirt. They seemed oblivious to the chaos, only knowing the joy of play. I smiled, realizing that even amid fear and uncertainty, life continued. "Can we join them?" she said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Of course," I replied, pulling her along, excitement bubbling up inside me. Joining in the game, we laughed and played, imbuing our hearts with normalcy, a refuge from all that had transpired. Then a moment of stillness washed over us. I pulled my daughter close, resting a hand upon her head, letting the world focus solely on her warmth. "This is our moment, sweetheart," I whispered, my heart brimming as we shared quiet laughter together. There was healing in our connection, a tapestry woven from shared joy and resilience to forge ahead. But beneath that blissful facade, I understood that rebuilding would require work, the kind that went beyond the surface. We would need to navigate the avalanche of emotions that loomed behind us, visit the core of our fears, and face them with open hearts. "Let's not forget," I murmured, "that every day can hold new laughter, new chances. We will always cherish those moments." As she glanced up at me, her innocence radiated strength. I knew we would be okay. We were equipped to reclaim our story from the wreckage we had just experienced. I could see a path forward, a journey to create laughter and love once more. Hand in hand, we stepped forward, facing whatever lay ahead. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting a golden hue around us, bathing the scene in warmth and promise. In that glow, we breathed hope anew, believing that together we could endure, rise up, and rebuild, weaving our hearts together in a tapestry of light and laughter once more. In that moment, we embraced our resilience, ready to forge into a world that awaited our return, a world filled with laughter, love, and the unyielding strength of our bond.